Welcome everybody to the Waiver Watch Draft. I'm Jay Mill from CFFLists. I got my partner Willie B as usual. We're joined this week by Kyle. That's KL_fantasy on Twitter. And we got our guy Farnsworth from CFF Nation, Sooner CFF of the Ankle Biters podcast. And Kyle, he's joining us from the Undroppables, where he's putting in CFF content fairly regularly. We know everybody's cutting back a little bit. You know, we have real world life events to tend to, but we appreciate them joining us this week to get into the week 6 waiver draft. And as usual, we want to do a quick recap of last week before we get into some conversations with them and learn more about what they're doing and how their seasons are going. But Willie B, give me the prediction you gave last week when we recorded, because I think you almost nailed your score. You ended up with 87.2 points this week. It was collectively the best week we've had all season. I had 90.1, and we'll talk more about Dwight's phenomenal performance in just a little bit. But didn't you say you were guaranteeing 86 points or something in that range?
I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was 85.5.
Right. Well, you came in with 87.2, so you almost nailed it there. You had huge performance by Star Thomas from Duke. Seems like, playing against North Carolina, playing any players against North Carolina is going to be the way to go from this point on. And then you had Dante Wright, the highly targeted receiver from Temple, both scoring really big for you. My 90 was led by Ben Wooldridge, who is still wildly under-rostered going into this week. So he actually, I wouldn't be surprised if one of us four grab him this week. He had 31.7, a really good waiver score if you're just picking him up and needed to plug in a hole. Then I had Ted Hurst, who my instincts were right about over there at Georgia State, who ended up getting over 20 points. He got me 21. Aaron Young from Old Dominion didn't do quite as good as I thought. Didn't have, the carries he had been getting, but he came on late against Bowling Green and got me 14.7. But the star of the week was Dwight Peebles from Campus to Canton and Dynasty Nerds. He had the privilege of having Alonzo Barnett from James Madison, who reeled off another 5-touchdown game for 42.4 points. And then the Navy offense kept rolling, and he benefited from the running back there in Heidenreich. And then, as I mentioned in the Twitter post about his score, he went with the correct Michigan running back and the correct Maryland wide receiver, which might have been a little bit trickier to predict there, with Prater landing at 17.6, but Mullings being his second highest scorer there at running back from Michigan. But really across the board, Dwight nailed all 6 positions. He ended up with 139.6, which we've been keeping track of everybody's score in the 3 years we've been doing this as a group effort, meaning, Willie B and I did it ourselves in year 1, but the last 3 years we've been doing it with some guests. And since we're talking about Dwight's second place all-time finish, we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't remind everybody of the number 1 scorer of all time who is joining us today, and that's our guy Farnsworth, whose 144 points is still holding up as the best score in the 3 years of stats that we've been keeping with this competition. So right. You guys should definitely be paying attention. Kyle, if I'm remembering correct, didn't you make it to the semifinals last year also? Or
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So Willie might check that for us. When I was looking earlier, I do believe we've got 2 playoff potential waiver draft guys here. So this is a duo that you definitely want to pay attention to the picks that they're going to have for you. As the season goes, we love having guests that perform well. This year's guests have probably had the best group of picks of anyone. I think we've had 3 guests score over 100. Or not only over 100, but over 120. So it's going to be hard to get into that next semifinal round. You guys are probably going to have to land in the hundreds this week. So Kyle and Farnsworth, what are you putting your odds on for reaching that 100 mark, to try to get into the semifinal round, for this season? Farnsworth, you think you can repeat?
Man, that's a hard task, man, but I thank you guys for inviting me
at least give me the opportunity, the chance to try. I'll take a swing at it. I'm not promising anything, but listen, we're going to do what we do, baby.
All right. Well, we do miss you on the ankle biter, so feel free to elaborate as much as you want, because I know on your show you would go in depth and long with those explanations. So feel free to give as much info, because I know you've been missing it a little bit. We haven't been hearing from you as much as we'd like. So you're welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Kyle, I know you're a little more on the soft-spoken side, but you always come with the serious stats. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those stats that you pull out to give the rationale behind your picks.
I hope I have something good for you. I haven't put a ton of thought into it. I had a busy day today, but we'll do what we can. We'll swing for the fences, and we'll try to get it done.
All right. Well, and if nothing else, you can brag to the world about how you beat me in our Super Starters League this week. We were talking about that late into the night. I was defeated by none other than Ashton Genty, who Kyle has in our big best ball league, with 24 owners and tons of starting spots. And he stole one from me last night. But good job on that, Kyle. I know you're doing really well in that league overall.
Yeah, the 101 rolled for me pretty well, so I'll take that luck any day.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking it up. Last year, Kyle, you had 91 in the first round, which you snuck into that last semifinal spot, and you still got 84 in the semifinals. So again, you guys have always shown up and represented and made some good picks. So with that, you guys ready?
Yes, sir. Let's speed this along. I know you guys have had a long day, so let's make this short and sweet for them.
Short and sweet. We'll be swift, and move it over to the pick. Here we go. The week 6 picks. We use the randomizer as usual. Kyle and Farnsworth. They're not just picking first and second because they're the guests. It's just the way that it worked out. And Kyle, you're up first. I'll have back-to-back picks. That'll be the only, and then we'll snake back to Kyle, and then kind of go into a regular order, once we get to round 3. So it always sounds more confusing than it is, but, we'll walk everybody through it when we get there. So, Kyle, you're up first. I've got all my notes here. We're going to all take 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end. Might as well mention it here. We're really looking to get 90 points, hopefully as a minimum, which would come from 20 from your quarterbacks, 15 from your running backs and receivers, and hopefully 10 from a tight end if you've got a solid lineup. So which way are you going to go to kick it off, Kyle?
All right. Like I said, I'm going to swing for the fences. So I hate this pick because injury news is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Buckley has missed the last 2 weeks at running back for Western Michigan. He's been fantastic when he plays, but he has not been on the field.
Mm-hmm.
They have not said what his injury is, but it's going to be hard to see if he comes back or not. So I'm going to take his backup and hope that he doesn't play.
Okay.
And that is Western Michigan running back Jaden Nixon.
Right.
Over the last 2 weeks against Boston College and Marshall, he had 189 yards and 146 yards and 2 touchdowns against Boston College, 1 touchdown against Marshall. They play Ball State this week, who is one of the worst defenses in the country.
Exactly.
So if Buckley doesn't go, I think Nixon's going to be a huge point scorer. Just the hard part of it is going to be knowing whether or not Buckley's going to play before about 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, that cost me. I had Nixon on my list. Again, I'm like you. We're not sure even what's going on with Buckley. There hasn't been a lot of information, as goes college football injury updates. I lost out making a similar move, taking Lucas from Liberty a couple of weeks ago, and didn't pay off as Cooley came back a lot sooner than expected. But I was ready to roll the dice on Nixon this week, too. He looked really good against Marshall. I'm down here in Huntington right now. Marshall still pulled off the win, but he really caught fire in that second half and almost cost Marshall the game, and has had 2 big games in back-to-back weeks. So I think it's a good pick, and hopefully he does play for you. And
Farnsworth, you're up. A reminder, J. Mill, if you feel inclined to hit me up with those logos.
Oh, yeah, I'm digging for them now.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
Mr. Farnsworth, you're up.
Let's get after it, fellas. You know what? I'm going to do something I've never done before in any draft on any planet in any
Okay.
universe. I'm going to pick a wide receiver. Never done this before. Wide receivers they're just not my thing. They come a dime a dozen, but in this type of setting,
Yep.
I think I have to do it. I
Okay.
think I have to do it. I'm going to go with my guy Skylar Bell,
Okay.
wide receiver, UConn Huskies, trying to get into the Big 12. I don't know what's going on there, but he's got Temple this week. I love the matchup. Whoever's throwing him the ball, whether it's Nick Evers or whoever they're going to run out there, I'm not sure what Jim Mora is doing, but I do like the fact that they like Skylar Bell. They like throwing it to this guy. This guy, 32 targets in 5 games.
Yep.
We love that. At 13 targets against Duke, their stiffest competition to date. But they get Temple this week. Temple is kind of moving the football with their new QB insert. For the last couple of weeks, they got another guy. They're running out there on the field. It's kind of scoring some points. So hopefully we can get into a little shootout here. I know UConn is probably a much better football team than Temple, but I like Skylar Bell to go off this week against the Owls. So give me Skylar Bell at wide receiver.
All right. Let's not forget to remind everybody he was the top scoring wide receiver in all of college fantasy football this week with, I think, 30 in most leagues, in full PPR, 39.1 points this week as the number 1 receiver in the land for week 5.
And he's only 11% owned.
Right. There you go. Yeah, and he's been coming on. It looks like he had a couple double-digit games earlier in the season as well. So I like it. Much improved UConn offense, I would say. So.
He was number 1 receiver on my list for the week.
Okay.
So love the pick. Since we're doing firsts, I know Farnsworth partner. If you ever listen to Ankle Biters, he will not give you his tight end of the week. So I'm gonna take a tight end. I'm gonna jump out here and take a tight end only because I don't want to be left without. Need to up my average so that I can reach that 100. And so we're gonna go with the guy who has been red hot. We're going to go Matthew Lauder from Boise State.
Yep.
He, the last 2 weeks, 22.1 and then 25.6 yesterday. And then next week they get lowly Utah State, who is 133rd against the pass. So we will take Matthew Lauder, who is 3% rostered.
Yeah, that's a good one. He was number 1 on my tight end list. And what's really funny about that to me, Willie, is this was the first time ever I was considering taking a tight end with my first pick to try to get him as well.
Right.
I think I got a couple other good ones. So now I'll definitely be waiting, but I seriously think I would have gone tight end right there after you if you didn't take him. Let's see now. So it's a little tough at running back. So I think I'm going to reach into that area first, and I'm going to go back to the well and take a guy that I had a couple weeks that I mentioned would be seeing an increase in carries from Utah State. He's still only rostered on 11% of teams, and that's Rasul Faison, again, from Utah State. I know they're playing Boise. Boise's offense has been great. Their defense is still giving up some points and some yardage. They're only 49th against the rush on defense in terms of yards allowed. But the thing you got to love about Faison is, he's the clear number 1 running back now. It was going to be a committee until the other running back went down to a season-ending injury. He's had 19 and 27 carries in his last 2 games. So he's getting all of the carries there out of that Utah State backfield. Don't expect that to stop. Look for another heavy load from Faison. And don't worry about his average. That 13.1 really means nothing now. It's a whole new season now that he's the clear running back for the guys there. And I forget, I get back-to-back picks here, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
The only time.
Yes, the only time. And look, we're in a highly decorated Marshall studio here with my son, who is in Huntington. And why don't we just go with the Marshall wide receiver, Christian Fitzpatrick, the big, tall, 6'4", 215-plus pound guy there, playing against App State. who traditionally you think of having a very good defense, but has just been really awful on the defensive side of things this year. They're 100th in passing defense. Patrick, he's averaging 14.2, but he's had 15 points in 3 out of his 4 games. And Ohio State was his only really bad game, which is definitely understandable. But otherwise, he's getting 9 or 10 targets a game. He's the most targeted guy on the team. He is sharing a little bit with Metcalf, but I'm going to go with the big guy that they look for in the end zone there from Marshall with Christian Fitzpatrick, 7% roster.
Okay, I like that.
All right.
Let's see.
And now it's back to you, Willie.
Yeah, it is back to me. I was thinking about doubling up and doing the stack with Madsen, but I can't overlook this guy. So I'm not going to be afraid that they're on the road to Syracuse. I love what UNLV is doing, so we're going to go with Malik Williams from UNLV.
Yeah.
And take a chance there. He was 13 of 16, 182, 3 touchdowns. Also ran 12 times for 119 and another score. So with him taking over for Sluka, let's just see what we can do, and hopefully we can double up and get that 30. Didn't get Barnett last week, but like what Malik Williams is putting in this last game.
Yeah, I think he's just playing. I wouldn't call it a chip on his shoulder, but if you're a quarterback who was leading the team through the spring and then you really lose out on getting the starting job from a transfer who came in late, and then you hear all the hype about this guy leaving the team and the team's going to just fall apart. I think Williams is probably playing with a little bit extra edge to try to prove to people that, in his mind, he probably should have been the starter in the first place. So they didn't miss a beat, with him at quarterback, and he looked excellent. So that's a good pick. He was definitely on my list. So I didn't quite like the Syracuse matchup either, but I think it's worth a dice roll as well. So,
Mr. Farnsworth, back to you.
Back to you, Farnsworth.
It is on me, fellas. Appreciate it. Man, I'm torn between whether I want to go with a running back or Willie B has already dipped into the tight end, so he's kind of got me scared a little bit. I kind of want to dip into the tight ends a little bit so I can make sure I get a good one.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? Because we're already in week 6, so it is slim pickings.
Yep.
Around these parts and then in these CFF streets. You know what? I think I'm going to wait. I think I can wait because I really want this guy. This running back has been on fire these past 3 weeks or so. He had 30 carries this past week, 166 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches, 45 yards and a touchdown, transferred in here from one of the Mexico schools. I get them mixed up. I want to say New Mexico State. I want to say maybe it's the other one. I don't know. But this dude has stepped up and he has taken this room over. Star Thomas is who I'm talking about, rostered in about 18% of leagues on Fantrax. Yep. He has Georgia Tech this week coming in. Not a real scare. But the way they're feeding this dude the ball, the last 3 games, 22 carries, 122 yards, 17 carries, 111 and 2. And then last week or yesterday, 30 carries, 166 yards and a touchdown. And again, had a receiving touchdown to go with that. I like it.
Yep.
So give me Star Thomas. Hopefully he's the star of this team and the star of this week.
I think I figured out Farnsworth's draft strategy, which was to just look at the perfect lineup list that we put out, which isn't our list. It's the actual.
Really?
Star Thomas was the number 3 running back of the week on the perfect lineup list. So Willie had him last week.
What? Maybe I need to pull that up and just cheat.
I thought maybe you were, but occasionally, that's a good place to start when you're looking for waiver guys. Is looking at that.
Now I got a list right here on my phone right here. I
I
gotta
believe
leave.
you. I believe you. I believe you. But it is interesting that your first two picks are, I mean, for good reason. You took them because
I
they're
didn't even
guys
realize that. Wonderful.
who have stepped up and had really big weeks this week that aren't on enough rosters. So it
That's
makes
big.
perfect
He was
sense.
still my number one running back from my list. So I love that pick.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's still only 18% on after what he's been doing the past couple of weeks.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take
Yeah.
it.
All right,
All right.
Kyle, you're up.
All right, Kyle, and this is a single pick. We will
That is
double back
correct.
to you, Farnsworth, after this pick, but Kyle gets a single pick here, and then we just go in regular order for the rest of the picks.
All right. I'm torn between a couple of receivers, but we will hope to start off hot. We'll pick somebody in a Thursday game.
Okay.
I will take UTEP wide receiver Kenny Odom.
Okay.
He had a bad week 1 against Nebraska, 1 target, 0 receptions, but after that, he's hit 14 points every week.
Mm-hmm.
Last week against Colorado State, he had 13 targets, which he turned into 7 receptions for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 31.8 points last week. UTEP takes on Sam Houston this week, who ranks against wide receivers for fantasy points.
Yep.
And so I think I like the matchup. I liked the production last week, and I think he can hopefully do it again.
Yeah. He was one of my 8. I know that only 8 receivers can get taken, so I've always got a list of 8, at least 8 at running back and receiver, and he was on there. So I think it's a good one, and I like that matchup a lot as well.
On me.
Right. Yeah, on you,
Yep,
Farnsworth.
Listen, man, give me Jacob Newell, tight end for the Zips, the Akron Zips. I'm going to go ahead and plug that tight end. Let's do that. Akron's, they're kind of acting like they want to throw the ball a lot with old Ben Finley. They get Bowling Green this week. I think we'll have a nice little tight end duel between Harold Fannin and Jacob Newell. At least I'm hoping so for the sake of this. So give me Jacob Newell, conference foe. Conference matchups are coming into play. And so, Jacob Newell, tight end, Akron.
Okay, yeah, he's
2%.
I
2% on,
like that. Yeah, and I have him in BTR, and then I also have him in our Super Starters League. And so, as far as I can tell, I might be that 2%. I'm not sure, but I do like that.
11 targets this week, amazing. He wasn't on my list, and I'm trying to figure out how I missed him with that 10.6 average per game. But and he's had an 18-point game and a 17-point game, so he's definitely a guy that can get you the big points you need.
Getting the targets, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, nice. That's why I love this. There's, as much as I'm digging and looking, like I always see a name or two that it was totally off my radar as well. So that's one for me to add to the watch list.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and take a running back here since I'm the only one that doesn't have one yet. I like what this guy's been doing. Let's see. Averaging the last 3 games, double-digit carries. So we're going to go Elijah Davis from the Raging Cajuns. And they go to Southern Miss, who's 124th and for running backs or run, however they categorize it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like what he's been doing. The last 3 games, 20 points, 12.3, and then 15.5. And he is 3% rostered.
Man, that is a good pick.
Yeah, that's another one I got to look up a little more about. Yeah, that's back-to-back picks that I guess I didn't do enough good homework here. I thought I did my homework, but I didn't have either one of those two. So I'll be looking them up after. Let's see which way I want to move here. 2 tight ends are off the board. There's still a couple there that I'm okay if they fall to me, and I have a lot of quarterbacks left, or not a lot, but I've got 2 or 3, so I'm going to take my chances there. Let's get this other.
Probably going to be Terrence Carter, right?
No, not at tight end. He failed me this week. That Raging Cajun failed me this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go wide receiver, and he's the receiver that nobody talked about from Texas State this offseason. They were busy talking about Cole Wilson and Hobart, and they seem to have overlooked Jaden Williams, who has averaged 23 points in these last 2 weeks. He had 23.3 this week. He had 23.5 the week before. he's at 17.3 on the season because he also had a 20-point game in week 1. So, we know Texas State loves to throw. A little bit of a tougher matchup playing against Troy, who's been tough against fantasy receivers, but they're 45th in the nation in pass D. That doesn't scare me away, from taking him, as he's kind of stepped into one of the top roles there at Texas State. He's only rostered on 3% as well, so you should be able to find him in a lot of leagues for Texas State.
Gotcha. Good.
And then we're going to come back around to you, Kyle, as we proceed in a normal drafting order here.
All right, I apologize if you can hear that noise. The fire alarm is going off in my apartment complex, but hopefully it's not too bad.
No, we can't actually hear it, believe it or not.
Sweet. Okay.
All right, so we're good.
So I will be trying to fill my other wide receiver spot, I think. I'm going to take UMass wide receiver Jacoby James, rostered in 2% of leagues. He's gotten 25 and 20.5 points in the last 2 weeks. They take on Northern Illinois this week, which isn't really a great matchup, but I think he's the kind of go-to wide receiver there for Tyson Famachaw. So hopefully he can get some targets and get some yards, and even if they're playing from behind.
All right, yeah, it's I kind of always lump UConn and UMass together as the two teams there in the Northeast that have been independents for quite a while, and I mentioned UConn being much better on offense this year. It also seems like UMass is finally taking some steps in the right direction. You're finally seeing some guys pop that you're not going to be afraid to take in college fantasy. That's a guy that I had on my list too, which kind of surprised me. Like, wow, there's actually a receiver at UMass worth taking now.
Yeah, I like that. I like the pick though.
Yep.
Can't beat it.
2% rostered. Yeah, I don't know who NIU's played to be, 10th in pass D, but again, I don't know that I'm necessarily even scared of,
They played Riley Leonard.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So, of all teams, NIU improved their pass D by playing Notre Dame. Who would thought?
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Mr. Farnsworth, you were up against.
Wonderful. Man, that was a good pick. I had to mark him off my list. I thought I was going to sneak him by.
Yeah.
Not on here. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and get me a quarterback. And this is the first time for everything type of show.
Okay.
I've never taken a service quarterback. And these service quarterbacks are ripping it this year, man. They're throwing it a little bit more. They got a little bit more accuracy added to their skill set. Give me Bryson Daly, 18% on Army quarterback. He's got a nice matchup against Tulsa, who can't hardly stop a nosebleed. So I like this, man. He's been fired. He's been killing it.
Yep.
The last couple of weeks, man. 3 touchdowns the last 2 games. Hopefully he can get another 3 this week with another $150 or whatever. Give me a passing touchdown. Listen,
he's going to get you everything. Yeah. It's funny. We made a point of talking about that this week on our best and worst prediction show, where I don't think we've seen one Service Academy quarterback in the top 16 at any point during the season, much less 2. Both the Army and Navy quarterbacks were on this week's year-to-date top 16. And it looks like after this week, they're both going to move up on the top 16. They're going to be ranked higher than they were even last week, which is crazy.
Right.
So
I agree. And I'm going to piggyback from what you're doing here, Farnsworth, because this Tulsa matchup is not a good one for the Golden Hurricane, because Noah Short has been on a tear, and I expect him to whatever Daly's going to leave, Short's going to pick up, and he is 17% rostered. But his last 4 games, point-wise, 15.9, 16, 15, and then 17.5 at Temple yesterday. So Noah Short, let me go ahead and chalk him up.
Yeah.
And we'll worry about wide receivers here in just a little while.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to go quarterback, but I think I'm going to make this week real fun then. And I thought when you said you were going to piggyback and go Army, you were going to go with the guy that I'll take now. I'll take Kanye Udo with my
There we
pick then.
go.
Since we
All
want to go
right.
There we go.
Army, I'll have a personal bet that my Army running back outscores your Army running back,
Yeah.
Willie.
Well, you can have that. If that's what you want to do, you can have it.
I'll take Kanye. I don't even like Kanye.
Easy.
All right. Well, hey, like I said, they're playing Tulsa. There's going to be plenty to go around, plenty
Yeah.
points to scores.
And I may have given up the quarterback I wanted just to take him right after you, just to make things interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And that's going to be a first and probably a last that we've had 3 Army players taken in a row.
You're right.
So,
What's that say about Tulsa? Is that saying more about Army or less about Tulsa?
we'll say Tulsa.
Okay, probably a combination.
We'll say Tulsa though. But
all right, Kyle,
all right.
do you have any Army players left that you would like to take?
No, I don't think there's any other relevant Army players.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll at least have something to tweet about this draft. All right.
So, no matter what of the 3 positions I take, I mean, there's going to be like one more pick at each of the 3, so I can, kind of try to wait on all of them. So, I guess I have to pick something though.
Yeah, you got to take one.
So I'll fill my tight end spot.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a horrible matchup, but I think they're going to be behind the whole game, so hopefully they throw it. I will take Vandy tight end, Eli Stowers. Taking on Bama this week. I mean, the dude's had 10 targets against Missouri last week, 17 targets against Georgia State the week before.
Yep.
I mean, if they fall behind and Pavia's got to sling that thing around, it's going to go to Stowers quite a bit. So hopefully he can catch some of those passes against the Bama defense and put up some points.
No, I like that one a lot. He was right there in my top 2 tight ends for the week, along with the one Willie picked up there from Boise. So, good job there. Because that probably, well, I don't know. I still got to get a tight end and a quarterback. I don't know that I would have taken him next, but I definitely wanted him. And I didn't care about that Bama matchup either for the same reasons you mentioned. They're going to have to be throwing the ball, and he's one of their top targets, if not the top target right now. So
I will admit it scared me off, but you can't deny what he's been putting down every week, though.
Yep, exactly. All right, Farnsworth.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take my last running back. Go ahead and give me Javon Ducker, former Memphis Tiger.
Uh-huh.
For the Sam Houston State Bearcats. They have made it a point past couple of weeks to just run the freaking football. He and the quarterback, I think the quarterback had like 27 carries last week.
Yep.
And here he is getting hot at the right time. They've got UTEP coming up, which I don't know if you want a better opponent.
Ball State would be the one better opponent.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah,
absolutely correct.
And maybe North Carolina.
Maybe North Carolina, but when we talk about these G5 teams, give me Ball State and give me UTEP. I think Javon Ducker is going to have him a nice day. So that rounds up my running back. What is he, 3% on something like that?
Yeah. We got a lot of single-digit guys, which is good. I mean, these guys in single digits, they should be easy to find, and that's what we're trying to help people.
Here we go.
Well, I don't know if he's the reason because I haven't checked the box scores closely, but I know those wide receivers have disappeared in the last 2 weeks at Sam Houston. So I'm going to have to assume that's why.
They're running the football. Like I said, the last game, Hunter Watson had 27 carries. That's the quarterback.
Yeah.
He threw the ball 19 times. He had 27 carries.
That's bananas. And I know the receivers we were getting excited about, like Humphreys and Noah Smith, they've just totally fallen off the radar.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, Willie, what do you got? It looks like you have to go receiver here.
Yeah, that is correct. Have a lot on the list here.
Okay.
But the number one guy that's left on actually he's not the number one, but I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to. I'll just say I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
So we'll go Justin Lockhart from San Jose State.
Okay.
Still been he didn't get in the end zone, so I think that's the issue. They lost a heartbreaker 52 to 54 against Washington State.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, the last time they were out, and then they had to bye. But they get Nevada,
Okay.
so I think he can get in the end zone against Nevada. And
Okay.
he is 8% rostered.
Yeah, and they've I don't know. We talked about it on the best worst show, the predictions. Nash has got 50 catches in 4 games. Like, you got to think at some point that target distribution has got to shift a little bit. I mean, Nash has had 20 and 23 targets, and Lockhart is still putting up decent numbers. So,
Right.
you know, if Nash just goes down by 5 or 6 targets a game that end up Lockhart's way, which I think has to happen. I can't see a guy getting 20 targets a game for a season. I don't think that holds up. So I think you're steering people right there with Lockhart.
I appreciate that.
All right. So I'll go. I'll get my quarterback out of the way
Okay.
here to try to get the one I want before it comes back to Kyle. And you know, I'm going to stick with the guy that got me to 90 points this week, which was good old Ben Wooldridge from the Raging Cajuns. That'll be two Cajuns we got on the board this week. Also, he had 31 last week. He's averaging 26 points a game, and he's playing Southern Mississippi, which you know, I think now that they're getting into Sun Belt play, Ben Wooldridge is, you know, going to just keep elevating. You know, he had 3 or 4 games is all he was able to play last year before he went out with an injury. He was doing great then. I talked about last week how, you know, he was very steady this season so far. I think all of his games have been in the 20s. He came out and got 31 this week. So his schedule looks really nice for the next few weeks too. So this is one of those players that I will note isn't going to just be good for this week, but you can grab him for this week and plan to play him quite a bit for the rest of the season.
Good. I like it.
All right. So that'll bring it back to you, Kyle.
All right, I'm going to need time to think on quarterback, so I guess I'll fill my last running back spot since I have a guy picked out.
Yeah, and if you've got your quarterback, you can give it to us too, but we'll let you also take your time because everybody's got one. So you could go back to back here if you want, but if you
guys take your 3 picks and I'll use it to think. But
okay, good.
For running back, I will take UConn running back Cam Edwards. Like we said when we picked Skyler Bell, I think UConn is an improved offense. I think Temple's a good matchup. I think if Skyler Bell doesn't get it across the goal line, they'll hand it to Cam Edwards, hopefully. And he can find the end zone a couple times in this game. He's been used a little sparsely, but he's found the end zone 3 times this season, hit 100 yards almost twice. So, been efficient. Hopefully the touches will increase this week.
Yeah, he's a guy that was on and off this list last year, kind of all season long. You know, he was competing with Rosa last year. It's been really weird. I can't figure that UConn backfield out at all. But just when you think, you know, you need to give up on Edwards and you cut him in a few leagues, then he ends up getting all the carries and the yards again. So I don't know if there's an injury situation going on or if they just can't figure out how they want to rotate him. I think you've made the right pick. I think he is probably the most stable out of the 4 names that I've seen getting a lot of carries there on different weeks, but it is very strange how UConn has just been mixing up the rotation there. So, but I got to go pick him back up in a couple of leagues because I think I got rid of him last week. And then he went and got 100 yards. Yeah. So, all right. Now you can think about your quarterback, Kyle, and we'll get Farnsworth's final receiver, final pick here.
Our final pick?
Yep.
Here we go. Let's go ahead and close this down. Give me another wide receiver, of course.
I think he's going to take Weiss from Missouri. I know he loves Weiss from Missouri.
No, not Theo Weiss. Former Sooner, not Weiss. I was kind of torn between these two I got on my list, but I think I'm going to go with Eric McAllister. He's right under the threshold, 28%.
Yep.
If it's not Jack Beck, it's going to be Eric McAllister. The dude has a couple 100-yard games.
Yep.
Last 2 games, has 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I like the way John Hoover's throwing the ball. He's got to cut down on the turnovers a little bit. But I like that they're throwing the ball all around. And the fact that for whatever reason they can't get Cam Cook going, they have to throw this ball continually. They got Houston, not the worst matchup, not the best matchup, kind of in between. I think they'll throw it enough to make him significant. So to finish off my roster, I've got Eric McAllister of the TCU Horned Frogs.
Yep. No, I like it. My note on him was that people need to ignore the season average of 13.2 and really just look at the last 3 weeks when he's had 15, 23, and 20 points. He's really stepped up these last 3 weeks. And hey, we got a guest appearance. All right. But yeah, ignore that average for the season and just look at the last 3 weeks for McAllister, and I think that's what you're going to see the rest of the way.
Yeah, this is my grandson Kai. Say hi.
What's up, Kai?
He,
We got
he's got
Kai
his Lightning
now.
McQueen truck
now-
here.
We got Kai and Kyle on the show now. All right, Willie, let's see who you're going to finish up with.
We're going to finish off with a guy who I know his last outing didn't get in the end zone. They lost West Kentucky 21-26, but when he does reach the end zone, he's going to get you 20 points. So that's what I expect this week when they have Miami of Ohio, and that's going to be Junior Vandeross from Toledo.
Mm-hmm. You've had him before.
Pretty sure I had him or I was going to steer people his way.
Yeah, or
if I didn't take him.
I had him. Both of those last 2 picks were receivers I had on my list. I had McAllister. I also had Vandeross. He's been targeted 9 times in each of the last 2, couple games over 20 points. So like you said, if he can hit that end zone, which you expect him to do against Miami, Ohio, he'll be a 20-point guy.
Yeah, you are correct though. I took him week 4, and that that's the last time they were on the field. He had 10.2. But like I say, he didn't get in the end zone that day. Hoping he gets in the end zone here, and we can bump that up to that 20-point average that he should have.
Well, the pattern has continued. So if the pattern that we've detected for your picks goes correctly, this will be the week he shines, because usually the week after you've taken a guy is when they've had their bigger week. So, I guess that makes sense for you to just start taking the same guys that you took the week before, because they always like to produce after you've had them.
Right. And then, plus getting that bye and give you that extra practice time to get it together.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to wrap my team up with tight end. Since everybody's got one, I'll let you know that I'm choosing between Benji Gosnell from Virginia Tech and our guy Cole Taylor, who I liked probably a lot better in the beginning of the season than I like now. They're both playing really bad passing defenses. Gosnell's going against Stanford, who's 125th. Cole Taylor's going against Oklahoma State, who's 100. But I think I like the consistency the last couple of weeks that I've seen from Gosnell at Virginia Tech. He's had, I think, 9 and 13 points in his last 2 weeks. So he seems to be starting to get more targets there for the Hokies. Nothing is working the way that they wanted it to this year. And when all else fails, what do? You go to the tight end. So Gosnell is going to be the guy there for Virginia Tech that's going to give me the 10 points that we want to get from our tight ends.
I'm not saying the 13, but I like where you're going with it, though. He's an interesting guy, like you said. I mean, it's all about the targets.
Yep.
And going this deep, I mean, my tight end list, it was short. I mean, it really was, and that's the reason why I took one first.
Yeah. Now I'm showing you there's 2 Gosnells in the system. There's a Steven and a Benji. If you're looking at Benji, he had 13.3 against and scored a touchdown against Miami this weekend.
Okay. I'm not sure why it's in the standard it's showing me 9.3. So I'm not sure why it's doing that, but
okay, that's
I'll
all
take
good.
Yeah, I agree with you here.
All right, you take my word for it.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
All right,
we'll look it up later.
All right, and he's another guy that's just rostered on. Yeah, you are looking at the wrong. You put Steven. It's Benji.
Oh, I got you.
Benji got
Okay.
Looks like there's some brothers on the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. But all good. And Benji's on 2%, Willie. Not so. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. But look, this is probably the most single digits guys we've had across the board. So like most of these players you should still be able to find here at the midway point of the college fantasy season. So Kyle, we filibustered enough there to buy you time for the final pick of the draft. So with the drum roll, who will the final pick be?
I wanted Woolridge. I'll give a shout out to a couple guys who are on bye who fit this. Michael Hawkins, Caden Veldkamp. I was really hoping either of them would be playing this week, but
right, yep,
they're not playing. So This hurts me because I feel like it could go horribly wrong.
Okay.
But, man, UCF looks so bad on pass defense against Colorado this week. Graham Mertz just went 19 for 21 against Mississippi State. I'll take Graham Mertz, the Florida quarterback.
Okay.
Had a rough start to the season, but, had some concussion stuff going on. He's been high in completion percentage. So I think Florida might beat up on UCF next week. And I think if they do, it'll be off of Mertz's arm.
Right. No, that's Mertz is definitely not what we thought he would be so far this year, but I think he showed enough last year that you can still keep a little hope alive for him. So I think that's a good move. I also like that you mentioned a couple of guys that are on buys, and we always like to wrap it up with a few players that didn't get drafted that we wanted to mention. And I'll just piggyback off of the bye week quarterbacks that people can look out, to grab this week to maybe hold for the rest of the season. Billy Edwards from Maryland continues to be grossly under rostered. So somehow he's still under 30%, but people just refuse to acknowledge that he's the real deal there at Maryland. Lowe, I believe is how you would pronounce it, from Georgia State, is a guy that's up and around 25 points a game. And it seems like they're going to be playing from behind quite a bit at Georgia State.
And Georgia State's lead wide receiver, Ted Hurst, also at 22%.
Exactly. I had him last week and picked him up in a few leagues. So, and Fleming, the tight end from Georgia State, is another one. Like, you got guys up and down that Georgia State roster that people aren't taking. And it seems like a case where, they're always having to play catch up. So you might want to grab you some Georgia State guys. But Farnsworth, you got anybody that you had left on the list that you want to share?
Yeah, quarterback, Tyler Huff.
There you go.
You want a rich rod quarterback. He's got a nice matchup this week against Kennesaw State. He's going to run the football.
Yep.
Yeah, so you got him. You got Tyree Walker, Wisconsin. He's been getting in the end zone when he's not playing Alabama. So that's good right there. You got Trey Stewart, who shares the backfield with Tyler Huff. Again, a rich rod system. They're going to run the football.
Yeah.
Trayshawn Holden, wide receiver at Oregon. Dylan Gabriel's, kind of found some type of liking with him.
Yeah.
So if it's not, why is the number one wide receiver?
Tez Johnson.
Yes, Tez Johnson. It's not him. It seems like it's going to be Trayshawn Holden. So, and then you got Anthony Torres, tight end of Toledo.
Yep, had him on the list.
That.
Yep. Okay, I like it. Willie, what do you got? Who's left over here that you would have taken if you had more roster spots?
If I didn't have the stack with Lauder, I was going to go Maddox Manson, the quarterback from Boise State. I like Evan Simon a little bit. I like him a little bit, but I love the matchup against UConn. Sam Levitt.
The Temple quarterback, Simon?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Yep.
And then running backs, George Pettaway. I think you had him last week.
Yep. From JMU. Yep.
Yes. And guy who's a little bit on the radar. This is kind of a wait and see. I'll probably end up taking him here pretty soon, and that's going to be Savion Red. I love what Cam Camper does. Yes.
Yep.
And as far as the last tight end that no one has mentioned yet, that's Ethan Connor from Troy.
Right.
That was one that I like. Other than that, everybody's probably mentioned the guy during the show. So.
Right. And Kyle, you mentioned a couple quarterbacks. You got any other guys at different positions, or you're exhausted?
I considered going for a Wake Forest stack against NC State this week. NC State's been a pretty defensive sieve. Taylor Morin is at 12% rostered. He's pretty good for about 15 points every week, and Hank Bachmeier could benefit this week as well.
Yep.
But I think that's all I really had.
No, that's good. Yeah, I had Bachmeier as my fifth quarterback. I had 5 on the list that I would have taken. He's one. Tyler Huff was the other. A tough matchup, but I like Ahmad Hardy. I don't know if he's a true freshman or a redshirt freshman there at Louisiana Monroe. They've kind of gone back and forth with who's going to get the carries there, but it looks like Hardy might be the guy that's going to end up kind of winning outright in terms of getting the most production. He's been coming along. We took all the Army guys that we could, so we didn't have room for anybody else there. I would mention another bye week guy at tight end, actually. You've got John Michael Gillenborg at Wyoming, who was hurt and has only played in 2 full games, which were the last 2 weeks. And he's had 10.6 and 11 points in both of those games without scoring a touchdown. So if you can get a tight end that's going to get 5 or 6 catches a game for 50 or 60 yards to get you 10 points without a touchdown, that's the kind of guy you want, with that high floor. And Gillenborg from Wyoming is a guy, because he was hurt to start the season, should be available just about everywhere. But you just can't play him this week. So I'll finish with him. And then, we can wrap this thing up and get on to those night games for the NFL for whoever wants to tune into that.
I
So what do
think
you
I'm
got?
good. I
Okay.
just want to thank you guys, though, for joining us here in this session, that's for sure. Like I said, I plan on you guys maybe rounding out our playoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
I can
Yep.
see that happening, that's for sure.
They've both been there before. But, yeah, any final thoughts from you, Farnsworth?
I'm good, man. Thanks again for having me on. It was a pleasure to be back. Anytime, I'm here.
Well, we might bother you more now that we know you're not doing the Ankle Biters weekly. We might borrow you for a few other things this year then.
Come on.
All
here.
right. And then Kyle, we're past each other on the schedule in our league, so I'm glad. I hate that I got the loss, but I know you know what you're doing over there, even though you like to downplay it a little bit. But any final thoughts from you?
No, thanks for having me on. I hate going with a Florida player, but
He's a Tennessee guy, so I understand.
yeah, I got Florida and Vandy in there somehow.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
hopefully it'll work out.
But that's a valuable lesson. You cannot play fantasy sports with your heart. You got to play with your mind, and you're doing that.
Well, you can when your coach is Josh Heupel. You can pick your own players at least. You just can't pick. You have to deal with the rival players sometimes.
Well, look, we're all connected via Josh Heupel because we're all Oklahoma guys with Willie B, Farnsworth, and myself being Oklahoma born and bred. We can share the love of Heupel because I don't think there's anybody between those two states that does not like the guy.
Right.
This is true.
All right. So we'll finish on a Heupel high note. How about
There
that,
you
guys?
go.
All right. Thanks to everybody.
All right. As always, thank you guys for watching and listening, and good luck this week.